Thank you for watching this video. To best support the channel, please take a moment and click the subscribe button. Also, the links to purchase this fly and the materials to tie the fly are in the description. Today we are tying up a shop favorite. It's something that's caught a whole bunch of redfish and something that I hope you guys enjoy. We're tying up the knot shrimp. In the vise we have a Partridge of Reddish Sea Prince hook. It's model CS52 in size 4. And we're using some Simplify Classic Wax thread in white in 6/0 to give us a little bit of extra strength and bite power while we're tying this fly. We're going to go ahead and start off by throwing in some small black lead eyes. They're solid black, and we'll get them tied in a little bit more than a eye length behind the eye of the fly. We're going to cross those over. And one thing I really like doing, you'll see me doing a couple times in this fly because proportions are important, is use an existing fly pattern and use that as a measuring step stool or a measuring base against the fly that I'm tying currently. Helps make sure that things stay very much in proportion and size consistent. So we're going to lock those eyes in place with some crossing wraps, both forward and backwards, and then wrapping underneath the eyes and over the hook. And we're going to grab some super glue and further cement these eyes in place. Put a small dab of super glue on there, and I'm going to grab a quill from a pheasant tail that I've been using and just kind of make sure everything goes in there nice and clear. It's a great way to reuse something that I wouldn't use otherwise. Now that that glue's in place, I'm going to do a couple more wraps just to help lock everything into place. And pull the thread tight to lock it all down. And we'll go ahead and do a couple wraps behind our lead eyes. Now what I'll do is go ahead and grab a clump of craft fur, and we're going to measure it out so that it's 2 hook lengths in length that will extend beyond the base of the hook. So I trimmed it up just a little bit. Now we're going to remeasure, make sure I didn't miss anything. So I was a little long. I'm glad that I'm double checking my measurements. Square up those butts a little bit better and tie those in right up against the back end of the hook. Or excuse me, up against the back end of the lead eyes. And it's okay, there's a little bit of fluff at the front. We're going to be tying in some dubbing and other things around there, so it doesn't have to be perfectly cleaned up. Now that we have that tied in at 2 hook lengths beyond the end, we're going to go ahead and measure out some grape purple eyes. And these mono eyes are something that will be added to the shop in the near future, if they aren't already when you're watching this video. We'll tie those in, grab our prototype fly, and readjust our eyes. I tied them in a little bit too long. We'll measure again. Pull them in a little closer, get them lined up where I want. Then we'll go ahead and tie in a second eye on the far side. And we're getting the natural curve of the mono eyes to kind of curve downwards in orientation to the hook so we can get everything underneath it. And once we get those in place, we're just going to bend things around just a little bit. You'll see that I didn't wrap far enough back. My eyes aren't staying or splaying at a similar type endpoint. So we'll get that fixed. Now we'll go ahead and grab our scissors, cut out the mono. And now we'll go ahead and put a dab of super glue on there, give us a little bit of extra durability once that soaks in. From here, we're going to go ahead and create we're going to splay out our eyes a little bit, bend that mono so that it pokes them out on a little bit of an angle. And then we'll go ahead and create a dubbing loop. Excuse me. In this dubbing loop, we're going to go ahead and place some Kraken Enhanced Hot White dubbing. It's a synthetic dubbing with some rubber leg chunks in it. It gives off a nice sheen and a lot of little wiggle, which we have noticed the fish seem to really enjoy. So when you're using this, pull it out of the package, break it in half about one time, because the fibers are a little long, the rubber legs can be a little long, so just kind of pull it apart, make sure it's a length that you feel comfortable with. I will trim it down just a little bit here in a moment, once it's already spun up and wrapped on the fly, but that gives you a good solid base guesstimate point. So now that that's in the loop, we're going to do one of my favorite things and watch this dubbing spin up. We got that spun up pretty tight. We're going to go ahead and grab our brush and brush that out a little bit. Try and loosen up some of those trapped fibers. And once that's brushed out, we'll spin it up just a little bit more. And we'll wrap it around our fly. So we're right to the back of the fly. Preen everything towards the back of the hook. And just do nice tight touching wraps, trying to preen things back as we go so we don't trap too much underneath. And now that we're to the back of the hook, or back of the lead eyes, excuse me, we're going to catch our thread right there, hold the dubbing loop with our right hand and use our left hand to pull the thread over the top a couple of times. And we'll pull that tight. And then we'll grab our scissors and cut out the tailing end of our dubbing loop. Then we'll pull all of our fibers back so we can grab our thread. Pull our fibers back and do a couple more loops to make sure everything's trapped in place. And then I'll move our thread to in front of the lead eyes. So you can see I'm kind of brushing this out a little with my fingers, seeing how long it is. Let's grab our bristle brush again and just rough it up a little bit and see how long things are. I'm going to trim things so they're a little bit shorter. That's a little bit too crazy for where I want this fly to be. Excuse me. And we'll go ahead and invert our fly. You'll see we have some pretty long ones. I'm going to go a little bit longer than the hook point gap. And just brush everything back again. Now we're going to go ahead and grab some white bucktail fibers. And those are going to measure from right in front of the eyes to just basically the end of that craft fur tail. We're going to square those ends off and tie that in on what's now the top of the hook, right in the belly of that fly between the eyes and the hook point. So I'm going to need to spin my thread to get it corded up nice and tight so it's not jumping off of everything. So you can see right now it's a little loose. Spin things up, get it even tighter. Pinch that into place. And we'll wrap that back just a little bit, building up a little bit of a head, but trapping down as many of those bucktail hairs as we can. And make sure that that splays out over the top of the hook as it sits right now, so it's not all on just one side of the hook. And we'll make sure everything's trapped in. We'll grab our whip finish tool, throw in a whip finish, and then we're on to the final pieces of getting this fly completed. We'll trim off our thread. We'll go ahead and flip our hook back to the normal orientation, take it out of the vise and just pull the bucktail tight so that we can get it to be a little bit cleaner in our vise, not splaying every which direction. And now we'll go ahead and grab some UV resin, coat that in between the lead eyes and on the nose of the fly, just kind of making sure that any exposed thread wraps are covered. That gives us a lot of additional durability, especially when this fly is being fished in sandy or salty waters that can rip a fly apart pretty quickly. We want to give that extra additional durability to this part of the fly. Then we'll go ahead and flip our fly over again and do a similar thing, just hitting those exposed thread wraps, cleaning it up as much as we can. And then cure that with our UV light once again. And this fly is now completed. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this fly has caught a bunch of redfish, and I know it'll catch all sorts of other saltwater oriented fish. Swing by the shop and grab some. If you don't want to buy any, all the materials for the fly are going to be posted in the description below. And if you haven't yet taken a moment, please take a stop and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.